perimenopause's bestie, associated health risks, might be more like a frenemy that she chooses not to have around anymore. So we've learned which foods to embrace during perimenopause and postmenopause to reduce the symptoms that so often plague women in this stage of life. But what about the fact that when perimenopause comes skipping down the road to greet us, she does so arm in arm with her bestie called associated health risks? Even though you're feeling confident about managing symptoms, are things like increased risk of breast cancer, osteoporosis, heart disease, etc., still weighing on your mind a little? The stats around women's health at that stage are sobering. But I've got great news for you. When you embrace the food that we've already been talking about, you embrace mitigated risk for the associated health concerns too. Woohoo! Let me explain. Women at this stage of life are more prone to estrogen-based cancers like breast, ovarian, and uterine cancers. Did you know that 80% of all breast cancers are fed and fueled by excess estrogen or by fluctuations of estrogen? So what can we do about it? You guessed it. When we follow the guidelines laid out in the PeriMeno Mastery week, you're already doing something about it. We can block it, transform it, and ditch it. Now, one way we can block it, of course, is with soy. Soy will bind to those estrogen receptors in the body. Remember not to worry if you've already got low estrogen, because soy is an adaptogenic phytoestrogen, which means that it's going to help you either block estrogen or mimic estrogen, whichever way you need to go. Dr. Christy Funk highlights some compelling statistics about the relationship between soy consumption and reduced breast cancer risk. And I've shown you these quotes, but here they are again. We can transform estrogen with cruciferous veggies. Remember that those cruciferous veggies will upregulate phase 2 of our detoxification pathway, which is when it takes a more toxic form of our estrogen compound and changes it into a safe compound ready to excrete through our body. And here's a cool teaser. There's a really great way to activate the sulforaphane in those cruciferous veggies, which is the active component that helps transform it. And I'm going to share how to do that in tomorrow's video. Cruciferous veggies are now being recognized as a mainstream strategy to prevent breast cancer, showcasing the power of diet in our fight against cancer. We can ditch the excess estrogen by eating enough fiber. Remember, when we have fiber, it helps sweep out the excess estrogen, along with a bunch of other toxins that we don't want, through our stools. And that plays a critical role in hormone regulation and reduction of our risk of estrogen-based cancers like breast cancer. Now, the second associated risk factor is heart disease. Now, of course, you've already seen a big trend already that imbalanced sex hormones can cause quite the landslide in our health in some very big ways. And as we progress through late stage perimenopause and postmenopause, our risk of heart disease increases. And that's because the right levels and the kinds of estrogen protect our heart, and the fluctuations in hormones are a big risk factor for developing cardiovascular disease. So again, by balancing those hormones in the ways we've spoken, we can mitigate that risk for heart disease. Let's look at some other ways that we can use food to protect our awesome heart. We can reduce our blood pressure. Studies have shown that both maca powder and blueberries are effective at helping to reduce that blood pressure. A 2015 study found that just 3 grams of maca powder per day for 12 weeks lowered blood pressure. Blueberries, they are rich in a natural compound called flavonoids, and studies have found that when we consume those flavonoids, that might help prevent hypertension and help lower blood pressure. And that's just one of the reasons that we included maca and blueberries into our PeriMeno Smoothie demo tomorrow. The third way that we can reduce our risk of heart disease is by looking at our cholesterol. We need a healthy amount of cholesterol. And as we discussed, cholesterol is made from what? Good fats. So by eating plenty of good fats, we can help prevent heart disease by increasing the good cholesterol, the HDL, and lowering the bad cholesterol, which is the LDL. Particularly powerful in the good fat department are seeds. Studies show that just 30 grams of mixed seeds a day lowered bad cholesterol by 10%, left the good cholesterol as is, and dramatically reduced inflammation levels. And that was all due to the omega-3s and the lignin-based phytoestrogens again. We love phytoestrogens, so lots of seeds as well. Nuts are really good at doing the same thing. A quick note on angiogenesis. Oh, I love angiogenesis. It is the creation of new blood vessels. So angiogenic foods create blood supply to the places that need it and cut it off from the places that we want to starve of blood. So think of tumors and cancer stem cells. Isn't that phenomenal? Some really cool studies that show that these angiogenic foods can, in effect, rip off this cloak of invisibility that is so often over cancer cells so that the immune system can then see it and attack it. Examples of angiogenic foods include fruits and vegetables, herbs, seafood, chocolate, tea, and coffee. Now, angiogenic foods are really rich in color, which is a dead giveaway for their potent antioxidants called anthocyanins, which are very, very beneficial for heart health. Now, we've included not just one, but 7 of these angiogenic foods in tomorrow's smoothie demo for you. Insulin resistance is something that we need to become more aware of in late stage perimenopause. And that's because as estrogen levels decline in that stage, it can affect our body's ability to use insulin effectively, which can lead to all sorts of health concerns like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. So that makes it really important to choose with intention the types of carbohydrates that you're going to eat habitually. Now, let me just stress, carbs are not the enemy, but processed, refined, white carbs can be if they're not eaten sparingly. That's because they're more readily converted into glucose inside your body, just like sugar. It's not the once a week donut that will do it. It's the daily white bread. It's the daily white pasta, the cakes and the muffins. Those things should make way for the unprocessed complex carbohydrates like beans and whole grain bread, rolled oats, brown rice, quinoa, all those beautiful whole grains, complex carbohydrates will really ensure that your body has a far more healthy response to insulin and reduce your risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Now, the ladies in late stage perimenopause and postmenopause have a little bit more increase of these health risks than the women in early stage perimenopause. But as estrogen decreases, our bone density can as well. And that can spell osteoporosis for many, many women. And lots of women don't even realize that their bones have become weaker until they break one. Women need more protein in perimenopause and after menopause. And it's recommended that we eat protein at every meal because it helps muscle and bone mass. It gives us better sleep. It helps phase 1 of our estrogen detoxification. It helps our blood glucose regulation and it repairs cells in our digestive and immune system. So some ideas for protein would be obviously meat, or your soy product as well, nuts and fish and cheese and eggs, chickpeas, quinoa, lentils, collagen. And if you want lots more ideas, we do have a dedicated Nourish with Protein challenge that you can dive into the protein world. But to keep your bones strong, specifically for late stage perimenopause women, we need glycine, which is an amino acid that creates protein. So you can get glycine from a range of foods in small amounts, from places like meat, seeds, peanuts, dairy, eggs, bone broth, legumes, and beans. Those are sources of glycine, but they're only small sources. Collagen has a high amount of glycine in it, and it also supports the natural production of collagen in the body as well. So collagen production actually starts to dip in most people's bodies from the time they're in their late teens to early 20s, and then decreases at a rate of about 1% every year. So by the time we're in our 40s, we might actually have, say, 20+% loss in our collagen production. And then in our 60s, we're at, say, a 40% loss, and it goes on. So studies have shown that those taking about 5 grams of collagen daily had significantly better bone mineral density compared to those on a placebo powder. So collagen might be a great way to help strengthen those bones in preparation for late stage perimenopause. And again, that's why it's going to be in tomorrow's smoothie demo for you. Finally, adaptogens. Now, I know that we have touched on adaptogens, but it deserves its own special mention here because of the way that it impacts our health in so many ways. Adaptogens help our body adapt to stress. That could be any type of stress. It could be emotional stress, physiological stress from poor health, or in our case, imbalanced hormones, or stress from environmental toxins. Studies actually show that adaptogens support our whole endocrine system, which is our hormonal system, to produce the right amounts of hormones that we need. So as we've said already, if you've got high estrogen, it's going to help bring it down. And if you've got low estrogen, it's going to help bring it up. And we spoke about how phytoestrogens can be adaptogenic like that, and soy and flax being particularly beneficial during perimenopause and postmenopause. Another adaptogen that is famous for being highly significant in benefiting women during perimenopause and beyond is maca powder. Maca powder is sometimes used instead of hormone replacement therapy because it encourages the ovaries and the other glands to produce the needed hormones. Incredible. So along with cruciferous veg, maca powder is edging its way into mainstream medicine. It's got a really firm history of balancing hormones, increasing libido, and for postmenopausal women, decreasing sexual dysfunction, reducing blood pressure, and symptoms of depression. All things that we in perimenopause and beyond need to be aware of and be considering. Many women notice fewer PMS symptoms, better sleep, and memory. And if that wasn't enough, research has shown that maca has mood boosting, anxiety easing, and energizing properties. It can suppress the production of the stress hormone cortisol, which is so important as we enter perimenopause and beyond. And in fact, maca powder was a key part of my regime when I was detoxing from all the stress in my life that caused my hormonal imbalance earlier on. How many more reasons do we need to include maca into our daily routine? It's incredible. And studies have shown that just 1 teaspoon a day for 6 to 12 weeks is enough for the benefits to start taking effect. Super duper cool. I just want to mention though, there are some contraindications. So if you have thyroid problems, if you are currently on treatments to modify your hormone levels, it's best to speak to your health practitioner before you start introducing foods that will change your hormone marker. So there you have it. Perimenopause's bestie, associated health risks, might be more like a frenemy that she chooses not to have around anymore. The choice is yours and mine. We get to choose whether we put a boundary up or not. Now, tomorrow is my favorite day where this all comes together in one easy meal, the PeriMeno Smoothie. We'll see you then.